Hi everybody out there. I am so happy that my friend Willie came all the way from Wisconsin when I told him I wanted to buy one of his wheels of Bandaged Cheddar. It's priceless. It's hundreds of dollars, but for me it's special, and I can give it to some of my friends. So I'm going to let Willie tell you about this and show us how to cut it up.
Cool. All right. So I'm Willi later from Bleu Mont Dairy in Blue Mountains, Wisconsin. I am a second-generation cheesemaker, and my parents came from Switzerland, and so I learned cheesemaking from my father. 70 Jahre zurück, meine Eltern sind von der Schweiz ausgewandert. Mein Vater hat dort Käser gelehrt und dann sind sie nach Wisconsin in den USA ausgewandert. Das Land von unbegrenzt Möglichkeiten. Wisconsin is really special in terms of we have really great conditions for cows to eat grass. Grass is really important for high quality cheese. Also, Wisconsin drew a lot of immigrants to the state who were cheesemakers from primarily Switzerland, but also France and Germany and Italy. So people wonder, why is Wisconsin the dairy state? Well, for one, we have excellent pastures where during the last ice age, the driftless area where we live was sediments from the glaciers that brought down soils from up north, deposited them, and that made for calcium-rich soils, and we have limestone underneath all that. And so there are really nice rolling hills, and it's perfect for pasturing cows and producing milk. So one of the cheeses that I learned to make while working alongside my father was called Bandaged Cheddar. And this cheese evolved in Great Britain, and there it's called cloth-bound cheddar. Now I remembered just as a really small kid that how good that cheese was. And then for many years this cheese went by the wayside, and I was determined to bring it back. And so at that time my job was to wax the wheels, and we take it to another level like it's done in Great Britain, where we put the cheeses into a cave-like environment where they get completely covered with mold, and those molds give the cheese a lot of flavor. In addition to that, the cheeses also lose between 15 and 20% of their weight during the aging process, so the flavors get more and more concentrated, and we start getting those crunchies that people love. And so this has become our flagship cheese. So I think it's time to launch into actually taking the bandage off. This bandage material is made out of an unbleached muslin, and so this cloth gets pressed onto the cheese the day it's made. So the cheese is aged in the cave on our property. The cheeses get completely covered with mold, and as I'm taking this off, most of the mold and the stuff that the yeast, bacteria that are on the surface of the cheese also come off with the bandage. We built a structure on our property that is like the perfect environment. It averages 55 degrees and about 90% humidity. It took a year to build this structure, an enormous amount of work. The temperature in there stays very constant, and the humidity stays around 90%, which is absolutely perfect for the molds and the yeast and the bacteria that want to colonize the surface. I make 4 batches a year. That's around 1,300 wheels, and each one of these weighs about 5 kilos, which is between 10 and 11 pounds. The best European cheeses are aged in cave-like environments, and you just can't replicate that above ground. People try, but it's just not the same. Aesthetically also, when you walk into the cheese cave, you're just in Mother Earth, and it's just really, really grounded in there, and it just feels so great. So now what we're going to do is we are going to cut this bad boy in half. Score the edge like this. I'm going to find that score. Look at that flaky texture. If oxygen gets into the cheese, then you're also going to get mold growing into the cheese. And that's one of the reasons for the bandage in the first place, is to prevent the cheese from cracking. Because if we didn't have the bandage on here, this would be a mess. It would be all cracked and full of mold. And so this evolved during a time before plastic and refrigeration, where cheesemakers didn't have good control over temperature and humidity, that the bandage was an insurance policy to protect the cheese during the aging process. It really doesn't have anything to do with the flavor on the cheese, mainly just to protect the cheese. Pretty much any cheese that has a rind on it, I feel it's a good idea to cut a small amount of rind off like that. And then, because the flavor, you can see how this is darker here around the edge, is lighter than the center. So what we want to do is we want to combine zones of flavor, if you want to call it that, in your mouth, because the flavor here is different than in the middle. And you want to combine those flavors, and with a glass of wine, it's really delightful. As you can see, I'm cutting across the wheel that way, and then we're going to make pieces like that. So that way you have a little bit of what was under the rind with the center, and then we're going to pop these in our mouth. All right, guys, come on over and try my 2-year-old bandaged cheddar. Come on. Love it.
So you got to see my wheel of cheese, and we'll cut it up and distribute it. And thanks for watching.
Yep. And remember, always give the cows credit too.